The neon sign of the Oasis gas station buzzed like a dying insect against the desert dark. I took the graveyard shift because the pay was suspiciously high, triple the minimum wage. The manager, a man with hollow eyes named Vance, had handed me a laminated sheet of rules before locking the doors from the outside. Rule 1. Do not look at the static on monitor 4. Rule 2. If a customer asks for a map to the horizon, tell them we are sold out. Rule 3. Ignore the tapping on the roof. At 12 a.m., the digital clock clicked. The silence of the highway felt heavy, almost physical. I sat behind the bulletproof glass, sipping stale coffee, trying to shake the feeling that the shadows in the back aisles were stretching. Suddenly, the chime above the door jingled, even though the glass doors were bolted shut. A cold breeze swept past my ankles, carrying the scent of ozone and wet earth. I looked up. The store was empty, but the motion-activated lights in aisle 3 flared to life. A single bag of charcoal rolled off the bottom shelf, spilling black dust across the linoleum. I reached for the PA microphone, my hand trembling. "Store is closed," I announced, my voice echoing weakly. In response, the radio behind me burst into loud, aggressive static. Through the white noise, a rhythmic scratching sound began directly above my head. Tap, tap, tap. It sounded like long fingernails scraping against the corrugated metal roof. I looked at the rules. Ignore it. But then, a drop of thick, dark liquid dripped from the ceiling tile, landing directly onto the laminated paper. By 1:30 a.m., the scratching on the roof had migrated down the outer walls. It sounded like something heavy and multi-legged was circling the building, testing the seams of the structure. I kept my eyes glued to the register, but the security monitor array caught my attention. There were 4 screens. Monitors 1, 2, and 3 showed the empty pumps and the dark highway. Monitor 4 was pure, gray static. "Do not look at the static." Vance's voice echoed in my head. But a sudden shift in the gray fuzz made my eyes lock onto the screen. The static wasn't random. It was swirling, forming a shape. 2 pale, oversized hands appeared to press against the inside of the glass screen, as if trapped within the cathode ray tube. The security camera feed from the back storage room suddenly cut in, replacing the static. Sitting on a stack of tire pallets was a figure wearing my exact uniform, facing away from the camera. Slowly, the figure began to turn its head. It didn't stop at the shoulder. The neck twisted a full 180 degrees with a sickening crunch. The face on the screen was mine, but the eyes were hollow black pits, and the mouth was stretched into an impossibly wide, jagged smile. Panic seized my chest. I scrambled backward, knocking over my coffee. The intercom on the desk beeped, activating itself. From the speaker, my own voice whispered back to me, dripping with malicious glee, "We need more ice in the back, partner." At 3 a.m., headlights cut through the gloom. A rusted, black sedan pulled up to pump number 6. The engine didn't sound right. It purred like a massive, organic throat. The driver's side door creaked open, and a tall figure stepped out. He wore a heavy wool trench coat despite the blistering summer heat. He walked with a strange, jerky gait, his joints bending at unnatural angles. He didn't stop at the pump. He walked straight to the locked glass doors. He didn't knock, he just stood there, his face completely obscured by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. The fluorescent lights overhead began to flicker violently, humming at a pitch that made my teeth ache. "Can I help you?" I called out through the intercom, my voice cracking. The figure leaned closer to the glass. Up close, I could see his skin was a mottled, bruised gray, and his lips were stitched together with thick, black thread. He didn't speak, but his fingers tapped against the glass in a perfect rhythm that mirrored the scratching on the roof from earlier. He raised a hand, pointing a trembling finger toward the counter inside. With a wet, tearing sound, the stitches on his mouth ripped open. He didn't have teeth, just rows of pale, needle-like bones. "I need a map." His voice vibrated directly inside my skull, bypassing my ears entirely. A map to the horizon. The air grew freezing cold, my breath forming mist in the tight booth. The third rule flashed in my mind. "Tell them we are sold out." We're sold out of maps," I stammered, gripping the edges of the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. "Try the station 20 miles down the road." The man's jaw dropped lower than humanly possible, unhinging like a snake's. A foul stench of sulfur and decay seeped through the cracks of the automated doors. "You lie," the voice boomed in my mind, causing a sharp pain behind my eyes. "The horizon is just behind the counter. You are guarding the gate." Outside, the sky began to change. It wasn't the blue of approaching dawn, but a deep, bruised purple. The desert sand around the gas station started to ripple like water. The sedan at Pump 6 began to sink into the asphalt, melted by a dark substance bubbling up from the underground fuel tanks. The glass doors began to spiderweb with cracks under the pressure of the man's gaze. I knew the barrier wouldn't hold. Desperate, I scanned the back wall and noticed a hidden door behind the cigarette racks that I hadn't seen before. It was painted a stark, matte black, with no handle, just a heavy deadbolt. From beneath the crack of that hidden door, a soft, ethereal white light spilled out, casting long shadows across the floor. The man outside began to slam his fists against the fracturing glass. Slam, slam, let us in. The glass shattered. An explosion of sharp fragments rained across the tiled floor. The cold desert wind howled into the store, bringing the stench of the deep earth with it. The man in the trench coat stepped over the threshold, his limbs elongating, stretching into arachnid-like appendages as he moved. Behind him, the shadows from the aisles rose up, forming faceless silhouettes that crawled along the walls toward me. I didn't think. I dove over the counter, sliding through the shattered glass, and scrambled toward the black door behind the cigarette rack. My hands were slick with sweat as I grabbed the deadbolt. It was freezing to the touch, burning my skin. "Vance!" I screamed, hoping the manager was watching the feeds. No one answered. I threw the deadbolt back and pushed the door open. There was no back room. There was only a vast, endless void of swirling stars and a narrow stone pathway leading into the nothingness. This was the horizon. The gas station wasn't a business, it was an anchor holding back the dark. The creature's elongated hand gripped my ankle. Its skin felt like ice and sandpaper. It pulled me backward, dragging my chest across the broken glass. I grabbed the frame of the black door, fighting against the immense strength pulling me into the corrupted store. I reached up with my free hand and grabbed the laminated rule sheet from the counter, jamming the sharp corner of the plastic directly into the creature's milky, unblinking eye. The creature shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, and released its grip. I kicked myself forward, tumbling backward through the black door, and slammed it shut from the inside, throwing the lock. The moment the lock clicked, the chaos stopped. The howling wind ceased. The absolute silence returned. I lay on a hard floor, breathing heavily. Slowly, I opened my eyes. The cosmic void was gone. I was sitting on the floor of the back storage room, surrounded by tire pallets and oil boxes. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed peacefully. I looked down at my hands, they were clean. No blood, no glass cuts. The digital clock on the wall read 6 a.m. The front doors chimed. I crawled out of the back room, trembling. The store was pristine. The glass doors were completely intact. Vance walked in, carrying a fresh cup of coffee. He looked at me, taking in my pale face and disheveled uniform, and offered a grim, knowing smile. "You survived the first night," Vance said, setting the coffee down on the counter. "Most walk out into the desert before 3 a.m. You've got grit." He slid a fresh envelope of cash across the counter. It was twice the amount we had agreed on. "See you tonight at midnight, kid. Don't be late. The things outside get hungry if the register is empty."